Hi everyone, and welcome to the Game Breakdown Podcast, the podcast where we break down lots of different games. And I know we said this week we were going to talk about The Last of Us 2, but we're not. We're not.
Because we never follow through on our promises.
And we're really sorry about that. But to be fair, the PS5's come out, Miles Morales has come out, lots of other things have been happening, and I had full intentions of buying Last of Us 2 and coming to the podcast. We'd be like, guess what? I played it. Finally, let's talk about it. But no, other things took my attention. I can't focus on one thing for more than a short space of time. So instead, I was like, oh, do you know what? Miles Morales is coming out. I don't think I finished Spider-Man. So I went back to finish Spider-Man and I got sucked in emotionally. And that's what we're talking about today, frankly.
Yeah. And so I've played it.
Oh no.
I'm not entirely sure like what I got up to. I may have finished it, I may not have finished it.
I think you would know. It affected me emotionally. I texted you last night before last, and I was like, I'm having some like real emotional problems here because you Spider-Man's affected me.
You said you were fucking crying, and I was like, okay, why? So
don't out me, okay? I was a bit upset.
Yeah, but like, why do you care? So that's probably where I think I haven't played it, or I have, and I'm just
fucking dead inside because it's like an emotional ending. Like it's really sad.
I got addicted to the time trials and all the little extra open world parts, but it is a fantastic game. I can't even deny that. Like,
it's a really good game. There's one thing, like, I think the open world aspect to it, I do love the open world aspect to it being Spider-Man. I think the formula that they've like had in place since like the best PS2 game ever made, which was Spider-Man 2. That was like the best Spider-Man game I've ever played, and like this one really like follows on from it really, really nicely. But since that day, they've done the whole open world thing where you can go on the floor and in the air, because all the Spider-Man games previous to that, like PS1 era, were like you were only in the sky, so you were just swimming from rooftop to rooftop, unless you were in like a specific building or something. But from that moment on, they solved the whole like, okay, we can do downstairs and upstairs basically and create a whole world, and you just have to swing around to discover crimes as they happen or follow a story. Like, it really does for me feel like a proper spiritual successor to that style of Spider-Man, because they've released so many other Spider-Man games since then that are just don't do it for me. Just not good.
Oh.
But yeah, it's a shame really, isn't it? But I do think that the whole open world aspect is really, really cool and really good. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little bit too big. You know, when it's like, do you know, like in GTA where you used to have like a certain district of Liberty City or something, and it was like, right, you've got to do a turf war, another side mission of can you find this weapon? Can you find that? And there's almost too many objectives to achieve in each district. You think, ugh, I really can't be asked to finish this.
I get what you mean.
Like Assassin's Creed.
Well, those kind of things I think can be a bit annoying. Like Ghost of Tsushima did it. It was like, yeah, I want to explore everywhere, but I don't want to explore it to see that I've got so much to do there. You know, like that's kind of where I draw the line. And that's sort of why I started to actually really take to Breath of the Wild even after I moaned about it, because it doesn't put you in the position of feeling like you have to conquer all these things, because you can just explore and like go from there. But what I will say is with Spider-Man, like I really enjoy like swinging around, so I didn't feel like the size of the world was too much of an issue for me when I played, because I was just backflipping. I was like, can I drop? Can I catch it? I feel like falling. I'm like, whoa, like just going off the floor. So no, I really enjoyed it, and I was obsessing over all the different suits. Huge fan of all the different suits.
Well, saying that, I completely agree with you, because I love some of my favourite thing to do, especially like on the old Spider-Man games, like I said, Spider-Man 2, which was the best one ever made, is like, even if I was having just like a boring day or whatever, I would go and not do any missions or anything and just go swing around New York. Like, that is so relaxing and so fun to do. And like, they made the web swinging in this game just as enjoyable and made it seem just like fun. So yeah, really, really agree with you there massively. I think also, like, not that the game is too big necessarily open world, but it's like the objectives you have to achieve all the time, like lots of little things you've got to do, which is fine because it does help you unlock stuff like new suits and new weapons and new armor. But sometimes I think there can just be a few too many of them, and you get to the point where you're like, oh Jesus, like I've still got 3 districts left of all this stuff, and like I'm getting a bit like burnt out, if you like.
Yeah, it's like you need to capture this, but then while you're capturing it, you need to hit these objectives to fully get whatever it is.
Yeah, and they could be a bit similar, like finding the drone, but then also catching the pigeon. Like, they're all quite similar things, and it's a bit
catching
like...
the pigeon was fucking rough. Like, I enjoyed that.
That was
but,
rough.
Like, sometimes I was getting pissed off, like, trying to...
What pigeon flies that fast?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It does backflips and, like, goes through... Like, what is this pigeon? You know, who made these pigeons? Like, who trained these pigeons? Is Spider-Man.
I love it, honestly. It kills me. But, yeah, I really, really enjoyed all the different like side missions. I think sometimes there could be a few too many. But talking about the suits, which is what my main point was, that was all to me a callback to Spider-Man 2 on the PS1. Now, I don't know if I'm sure it was Spider-Man 2, it might have been 3, where all the suits that you have were in the PS1 game. So the one with like the blue suit with the Fantastic Four uniform, but he's got a paper bag over his head.
Yeah.
Like, that was from, I think it was a PS1 game, and it was called something like The Rise of Carnage or something. It was like a Venom or a Carnage game, a Spider-Man game that had them in it. And all those suits, like the majority of them come from that game, which I thought was so, so cool because like it was showing like a good callback to the old PS1 area. Not an area, not a place. PS1 area, the area where we'd keep
the
PS1s.
area of the PS1. That was a good
the area of the PS1. It was a good area. But yeah, I loved that so, so much. But yeah. Really
so, okay. What was you going to say before I like go off on like a
no, go on.
question?
I always interrupt you, so like you interrupt me. Go for it.
I want to know like what is it? Do you think the games are good because you're a fan, or do you genuinely feel like the games are good? Because I picked up Spider-Man because I heard so many positive reviews, and I did enjoy it a lot. But like I don't know whether it is more based off people just being fans of like Spider-Man himself rather than like the story, you know, like because I think that maybe that's why it's different. Maybe that's why you felt more affected by the story, whereas I was like, well, I just enjoyed the fun bit of going outside, you know. Like I wonder if it's more of like
I enjoy just playing it.
I wonder if it's more of like a fan thing. Not that I'm saying it's a bad
I don't
game.
know. I'm not sure because I am a huge Spider-Man fan. So I've bought every Spider-Man game since the PS1. I've had like all of them on the PS1, all of them on the PS2, PS3, and now PS4 and 5 and stuff. I've loved them all. And when I was a kid, he said like Spider-Man lunchboxes and Spider-Man hoodies and Spider-Man shoes, all kinds of shit. Like really, really do love Spider-Man. So I used to read the comics as well, which just shows you my age. So I do love him a lot. So I guess you can say there's a part of me that thinks, oh, it's just a Spider-Man game, it's going to be good. But no, I think it's a genuinely fantastic game. Like it looks brilliant, it plays brilliant, the story is really good. And it doesn't follow necessarily the comics or any of the other stories. It kind of takes it in a slightly different direction, or not necessarily a different direction, but maybe shows you a little bit more than you ever got to see from the cartoons or from the other games or from the comics and stuff. Like the real closeness of Peter and Doc Ock's like relationship and how close they were and how Peter like worshipped him and that kind of stuff. But no, I think it's just a fantastic game because there's been some really crap ones. Like on the was it PS4? Was it PS3? I can't remember now. I think it was PS4 game. I think it was just called The Amazing Spider-Man, or was it the Electro one? Either way, I think it was the Electro one. It was just not good. I played it for literally half an hour and I thought, God, what a waste of money. Like the web slinging was just awful. The way Peter moved was just crap. The fighting was just not good. And to me, like when you can't get the fundamental basics of a Spider-Man game correct, then you've screwed it up. Like he needs to web swing, he needs to fight. If you can't get that right, then
What's
like
the
Dragon's
point?
Den, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what is the point? But this game, I think, smashed it on like every level. Like,
So they've kind of set a bar, haven't they? I'd be interested to see, because obviously neither of us have played Morales, so it would be nice to see whether you think, like, what's been improved on, or has it like took a step back, or
yeah,
you never know really.
I'm excited to play that. I have got it currently downloading on my PlayStation, and I will say we'll talk about it next week, but who knows, we'll probably talk about something completely different because we don't actually stick to what we do.
That's who we are.
That's who we are as people. But yeah, I'm excited. I've heard lots of news already. Some people are a bit annoyed that they've replaced Peter's face model.
Yeah, so that is quite a bit. That was quite a big topic actually, wasn't it? When it was
Yeah.
when it was revealed, and a lot of people were like, "Well, why? and everything. And I kind of thought, well, from, you know, visuals, if the models fit in the person's face better, like, it's going to be an overall better kind of result, and surely that's like what people want. But at the same time, I was never really bothered about the previous one, but there was a lot of uproar and people were like, I'm not going to buy this because I can't believe they replaced his face, like, why do that? And you just thought, like, here we go, you know, you can have the people that
the drama is just too much.
Yeah.
These are the same people that were tweeting that they wish people died of cancer when, like, Last of Us came out. These are the same people that need to get a job.
It's this, it is like, that circle of people, for sure.
It is. But if I'm honest, I don't really think that in Spider-Man on the PS4, I didn't think that Peter's model looked like Peter Parker. Like, he's, you know, he fits the brief. He looks like a young, you know, late teens, mid-20 something kind of guy. He looks, you know, physically he looks a little bit like Spider-Man. He's in the right kind of shape and stuff, but his face to me just looked very, very strange. Like, it looked like his eyes were a bit too big, like a doll, I thought.
He
and
did
like
have
when
quite
you
big
compare
eyes,
him, really big eyes, and when you compare him to like Mary Jane or to Aunt May or to the other characters, they look like real people, whereas Peter looks like he's been composited together by like 3 different people's faces. Like, he doesn't quite look like a real.
I don't know,
do you know what I mean?
Like,
Doesn't...
this Peter's like a real person, and if you are, I'm really sorry, mate. Your eyes are fine.
If this is mocap, I'm sorry. You have beautiful eyes. I'm really sorry.
We love your eyes.
Love you for you. Like, I really. We love your eyes. We stand your eyes. No, I hate this because it's the same conversation we had about Jill, and I feel like I'm dragging a real person, and I really don't mean to. But are you like Googling it? Please say he's not. He just looks a little bit unusual. He doesn't look ugly or anything. He looks fine. It's just his eyes just looked a little bit strange, and I don't know whether it was because that's what the guy looks like or because they changed it for whatever.
Yeah.
I'm talking myself into a hole now, so I need to stop. But I feel like the new face model that I've seen that's in Miles Morales actually looks a bit more like Peter. Like, when I think about the actors who have played him, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and that kind of stuff.
I mean,
and
he's
then
a real person being.
Oh, shit.
I don't...
Does he look like that, though?
Right, I wish we could show people. I'm just showing him a picture now.
Oh, okay, but he doesn't look like that.
He does,
okay,
yeah, he doesn't. His eyes aren't, like, you can definitely see the similarity, but his eyes in real life are not, like, that close together, like, as they are.
And not like fried eggs.
Yeah, my camera's not very good. We're doing it long distance.
I feel like he, to me, looks a little bit more like the Peter Parker from the cartoons. Did you ever used to watch the Amazing Spider-Man cartoons on, like, Fox Kids back in the day?
Yeah, like a long time ago.
The actor they've used for that Spider-Man game, I feel like looks like him. They almost tried to find someone who looked like the cartoon Peter. Mm-hmm. And possibly a bit Andrew Garfield-y from the film.
Yeah.
Even though Andrew Garfield was not my favourite Spider-Man at all. I've liked the new one. I like Tom Holland. I feel like, I don't know why they didn't just pick him. He's the current Spider-Man. I don't know why they didn't just pick Tom for the face model. I feel that would have made a lot more sense.
But a lot of people kind of didn't want that, did they? Which was weird. Which is what I found confusing, because you'd think, like, if he's like the current, then why is it such an issue that he's now having the face? And some people were like, well, I think he looks too young, or he looks too whatever. Like, he just looks like a little boy, and it's like, well, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like,
it is what it is. I think people have too many opinions as we sit here hosting an opinion podcast. But I mean, like, when Spider-Man on the PS2, like, one of the best, I'll keep saying it, one of the best games ever made.
I know, how many times can we add a counter and at the end, like,
can we add a counter on the screen of a non-existent screen? Ding. They used Tobey Maguire for the voice of Spider-Man, and I'm pretty sure the face as well. You didn't really see his face too much, but I think in the few scenes that you did, they used Tobey Maguire's face, and he was the current Spider-Man at the time. Like, I don't know why they didn't just do that. And they used Kirsten Dunst's face model for Mary Jane at the time too, and that worked out well. Like, they've always just done that, so I don't know why they didn't do it this time, which was strange. But yeah, the new face model, I feel, looks
fits the part
better. Yeah, he fits the part a bit better. He looks more like a young Peter Parker Spider-Man type.
I'm really excited now to play the new one. Now, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'm ready, I think, to play that. It looks good.
Yeah. It does look really good. Oh, one thing. Sorry, this has nothing to do with Spider-Man, but we haven't spoken about it yet. Now, a while ago, I don't know how many podcasts ago, let's just say 3, it could be more, we spoke about the fact that, I think when we spoke about Metal Gear.
Oh, yeah.
And we said that, there's rumours of a new remake coming out. And then it turns out it was just because they were being ported onto GOG.com or GOG or whatever it wants to be called. Well, now the rumours are back and there's a new Metal Gear coming out.
Yeah, I know. I tweeted about this the other day, and I said, right.
I didn't see. Sorry.
I've said, unless they're gonna bring out a flipping Metal Gear Solid, which I'm trying not to swear as much, try to be a good person.
Okay.
Santa.
Trying to be a Christian.
So yeah, I thought unless they're gonna bring out a new Metal Gear Solid or a new Silent Hill, like why are we just constantly getting these articles and like there is no legit evidence to support it? We're now getting articles saying that possibly Sony gonna bring out a new handheld, like a successor to the Vita or PSP or something, and it's kind of like I just feel like they're not letting these rumors go. I mean, I feel like they.
Does that mean something though? Does that mean something though? If the rumors aren't going away, maybe it's because
normally
they
that's.
ain't
I mean, yeah,
rumours.
you're right because Mass Effect I thought was a load of BS, and lo and behold, we're getting a full on remake of the trilogy, which will be absolutely exciting. So possibly.
I mean, because you see what happened to Capcom not too long ago, didn't you?
What?
Well, they had that huge data breach, and they leaked the next like 5 years worth of games that are coming out and all kinds of stuff.
Well, that could be.
I'm more inclined to trust rumors recently because I feel like a lot of them are coming true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And the whole Silent Hill thing, now there will be a Silent Hill remake, they're saying.
I guess I just don't want to believe it unless I know, because it's like just gets your hopes up, doesn't it? And then you find yourself like you'll be sat there minding your own business, and next minute you're like 4 hours deep in a rabbit hole of like rumors regarding a game, and you're sat there like, is this happening? And someone whose YouTube channel, who's never been a good source, is now a good source, said
Yeah, I know. You mean.
that suddenly you're gonna have this kind of weapon in the game, and you're like, it's true, it's happening. You know what I mean?
It's like what culture gaming have made a video and they're saying that it's happening, so it must be happening.
Exactly.
When they're realistically doing just what we're doing, like, oh, there's rumors going on. It's like
no. But I guess you got to keep people excited, and if it's true, which there's no reason I guess why it shouldn't be true, but like I don't know. I feel like for such a big title, surely you'd kind of and why are they always kind of together? Like I know it's because it's by the same like companies and whatever, but yeah, I don't know. It's almost like if there's a rumor like Silent Hill is always like closely follows it, or
Silent Hill's always being remade. Like, how many times has Silent Hill allegedly been remade? Like, you know what I mean? I'm getting bored of the amount of Silent Hill remakes that have not appeared.
I know, because oh god, it would just be so good to see what they would do in today's. We've seen it with the Resi games, and it's such a shame that we're not getting to see it so far with the Silent Hill games, because I feel like they're owed it, you know, like especially when you look at how fantastic Resi 2 was, and obviously Resi 3 looked really good, but it wasn't quite as strong as Resi 2 in my opinion.
Don't bring that game up in my presence.
Sorry. Yeah, Silent Hill would be fantastico.
It really would be. And also another bit of weird gaming news. Did you see that Sony trademarked the names PS6, PS7, PS8, PS9 and PS10?
I don't
like,
think they'll
why?
be able to...
Like,
yeah, I think they're just covering their back, because there'll be some little stupid company that'll take it, you know, and they'll be like, fuck. But they could buy that back. Like, let's be honest.
Do you know what I mean? This is what I don't understand. Like, I think it's so random. Like, it's good to prepare for the future, I guess, but PS10, like, it's usually roughly a gap of 10 years between each console, so you're preparing yourself like a good 40 years in the future. Like, just make sure, like 40, 50 years, make sure that we've got it ready. But hey ho, well done, Sony.
The day they bring out a PS10, I will literally be somewhere very old and very sad that I saw the make of the PS10.
God, how dark.
I know.
Right, sorry, but anyway, back to Spider-Man news. I thought maybe we should do a little regular thing each time, like a bit of weird gaming news, a break in between.
Who knows? I mean, if people want that, like, not that they can say anything, but like, we'll give it to you if you want.
Yeah, we'll speak to our producers, and you know all the producers we have.
Koji.
We'll speak to the TV company that hosts us, Koji. I'll speak to my dog, see what they say, and we'll just
Cats, yeah.
see if we include it in the show. Yeah, and the cats, great. But sorry, Spider-Man. So yeah, love Spider-Man. I thought it was really good. Right, okay, so the story, I thought the story was really good. Now, I played it really recently. I know that you played it a little while ago. Do you remember a lot about the story, or do you need me to fill you in on some bits?
I think it would be good if you filled me in, putting it bluntly. Yeah.
Okay, what do you remember, like, at all?
What do you remember? Oh, God. Right, okay. Honestly, I would struggle to remember like proper specifics, but I do remember it being better than I anticipated. I remember the story being a bit more meaningful, and
Yeah.
I did get like quite attached to like the different sort of characters and his relationship with them. So I know that it was good. I just honestly now, like, it's been that long, it's not like at the forefront. I'm just gonna keep talking. Just tell me.
I love your specific, non-specific answer. That was really good. I love the characters and the relationships between them and the twists and turns that the relationships took. Like, that was really
just
good.
Let me run the contract.
I love the highs, but I also love the lows. But I really enjoy
the pure politician swag.
Right. Okay. So basically, the crux of the story is it doesn't really, to me, if from my knowledge, follow any of the cartoons or the comics specifically. I think it does borrow a little bit more from the Miles Morales universe. Now, I don't remember. I used to read a lot of comics when I was younger. I don't really remember reading a lot about Miles Morales at the time. I don't know how new his story is, but I think it kind of borrows more from his story, obviously setting up the release of the Miles Morales Spider-Man game. But basically, the point of it is that Peter is out of school and he's now in uni. Basically, he's in college and he's working with a doctor, Dr. Octavius, and he's helping him develop this biometric system for him to control things with his mind. So use his mind to control like a robotic arm or to control a robotic hand, or being able to move things with using your mind, basically, like a chip in the back of your neurons and stuff. So he's helping him do that, and you're going about your day-to-day life, and then you find that Aunt May runs Feast, F-E-A-S-T, and I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically like a
homeless shelter.
Like a homeless shelter. People who don't have any food, that kind of stuff. They go there and get meals or a bed for the night, what have you. So yeah, that's kind of thing. Him and Mary Jane are dating at the time. Oh, by the way, before we carry on, I am going to spoil every aspect of the story.
Yeah, spoilers ahead, everyone, because I need to get schooled on the Spider-Man story.
So he's like dating Mary Jane, and they're kind of together, but they kind of do have a bit of a breakup in between. But she's an investigative journalist, and she knows that he's Spider-Man. And basically, they kind of work together. So she gets leads on a story. Peter will investigate it, or vice versa. He'll come across something, and he can use her to like find leads or find out where things are going, or what have you. Anyway, in this Feast place, you have Martin Lee, who works and runs Feast, and his dream was to be able to help people, and blah blah blah. He ends up being not the main villain of the series, but you think he's the main villain of the whole game for quite a while. But he ends up having like secret powers, and basically runs a whole gang called the Demons, and they release a chemical called Dragon's Breath into the atmosphere. And I will say, as I was playing it last night before last, I got into the main part of the story about the fact that the whole of New York is quarantined and they can't go outside because it's a pandemic going on and everyone's wearing masks. And I was like, this is like very similar to what's happening now. And you know when you have those moments of conspiracy, like, was this game made to tell us what was going to be happening very soon?
Yeah.
Like, it's
is
bizarre
this a
how many
message.
Yeah, like just like the release of films called Quarantine and the release of games that involve a pandemic around, a year or so before we had one. It's kind of eerie, but whatever. I see you, government. Anyway, so yeah, this whole like quarantine happens and people are getting very sick and this illness is killing people, blah, 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 blah. And it's Spider-Man and Mary Jane's job to fix it all. Oh, and they also have a boy that helps them, Miles Morales, and that's his introduction. So he helps them out. He doesn't know that Peter's Spider-Man until the very, very end. So it's kind of his little introduction. But he gets bitten by a radioactive spider that Mary Jane accidentally smuggles out of Norman Osborn's lab. It gets stuck to her jumper, and she takes it back to Feast, and it bites Miles, which is quite cool. So it sets up his whole story, which is really nice.
That is interesting. See, now I feel like I need to replay it because I am very, not as on the ball with it as I thought. I generally thought that I knew more. Like, but maybe that's not a good thing, because it's like I kept saying it was a really good game, and like I'm not remembering much about it, and it's like maybe it's just one of those games that are really good in the moment, and then after a few months it's like I don't actually remember anything, you know.
But this is like the case with any RPG. It doesn't matter if I'm playing an RPG that I love. As soon as you enter that open world, I don't do well with too much choice, and after a while it kind of like I fall off. Like I really enjoy it at the time, and then I fall off of it. It's like, but then when I go back into it, I go hard.
Yeah, it's like you can say for most games that are like open world RPG style games, you can say, oh, I really enjoyed that game. Yeah, it's good, but you can't say why. Whereas like when you think of games with really heavy story, like your Metal Gear Solids and everything, you know everything about that because you're not lost in like a world of choices.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I think we have a little bit too much choice sometimes. I mean, it's like the only recent game that I've played as an RPG, I guess you can call this open world, that I've played from beginning to end consecutively until I finished it, was the new Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now that to me is an open world game, but it's like a light open world game, like a diet open world game. It's kind of linear through the entirety of the game until you get to the end, and then it gives you the whole then it gives you the Spider-Man treatment, like, now you've done this, feel free to tie up in your loose ends before you carry on, like that kind of thing, and then you can go wherever you want.
Touching from
that
this,
may be why I finished it
as well. Touching from this though, right, on the time of recording this, we record these prior to obviously being released, and at the moment this is before the
secrets of the industry.
This is before Cyberpunk, so I don't think this will be out. This episode will not be out till after Cyberpunk. Now, Cyberpunk, I feel like on paper looks brilliant. It's going to be a game that I think it's going to be like Spider-Man. I think we're going to remember the world, and we're going to remember like kind of like what you did, but we're not really going to remember its story, you know, like months down the line. So it'll be interesting. Which I'm going to get it, but you're on the fence, aren't you? Because it's first person.
I know. We have like a whole unreleased episode about our disdain for first person games. You're more willing to let them go than I am, but I don't know. I find rather than envelop me more into the experience, rather than pull me in, it actually distracts me from being what is the word I'm looking? Immersed. There you go. Rather than immersing me further, it pulls me out of it, because I find it strange that I can just see these two little hands. Like, I don't know. I already see real life in first person. I don't have to like play a game that's. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to do a first person game. Like, my life is first person. Give me something different. Like, I don't know. I find it distracting, and I get really cross because there's so many good games that everyone always talks about that are first person that I just won't fuck with, because I think, oh, it's just gonna annoy me. It winds me up. Like, even games like BioShock and stuff, I've tried to play them and I've heard like fantastic story and all that kind of stuff, but I just can't get into it. The only first person game that I've actually gone through and really enjoyed, in recent memory, I want to say, well, two games. In the PS3 days was Resistance. I really enjoyed that. I kind of think also it was because I got the PS3 at launch and I only had like 4 games, and it was like, well, better play it, like, because I've got nothing else to play.
But yeah,
Resistance was really cool. And then in my recent memory is Resident Evil 7, which I did enjoy. However, didn't need to be first person. No. And I've seen the mods where it's third person and it works just fine. Like, and it actually plays better, but that's just my opinion.
See, it's weird because I was always very like, you know what, I'm not really one for first person, but due to like experiencing certain games in my like day-to-day life and whatnot, I've become very like used to it now, and to me it just kind of feels like another game. But like, it's weird because I've gone from absolutely despising first person like you did, but for some reason slowly I've just got more and more like inclined to play them now, and now I just see them the same. But I remember like I used to be like you in the sense that a new game would come out and I'd be like, oh, that's awesome, and it'd be like this amazing open world, and I'd be like, that's a hit, because I don't like open world. It'd be like first person, I'd be like, that's another hit, like I'm never going to touch that game. Whereas now it's like, I guess it's kind of rammed down your throat that any major game, the likelihood is it's going to end up being first person, especially if it's like an open world RPG normally ends up. being.
This is the thing, because people want to transition it into VR, like eventually. I'm assuming that's where a lot of the first person push these days are coming from, because they want to then be able to sell the VR extension that comes with it, and you can play it in VR too, and that's like another load of money you have to pay. Like, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the experience of VR and first person, how it really can suck you in. But to me, unless you're playing it as VR, the first person for me doesn't quite work. It's like Skyrim. Like, Skyrim on paper should be my perfect game. Open world, Dungeons, Dragons, Game of Thronesy type magic and shit. Like, I love all that kind of stuff, but I can't play it. I've tried to play it, and I know you can do a third person mode before people start jumping down my throat. I know you can do that, but because it's not designed that way.
Don't jump down my throat, bitches. I know.
Well, everyone climb out of my throat, because
Shut up.
I know it's designed. It's not designed that way. It's designed to be a first-person game that has a third-person element. So when you zoom out and do the third-person mode, your character walks like a piece of wood, because like it's not really meant to be seen like that. So your little wooden character, like, you know, like clip clops around the place, and just looks a bit stupid.
Well,
and I'm like,
it's like Skyrim, Fallout. They all have that kind of mechanic to them. And it's weird because Cyberpunk originally was going to be fair enough first person.
Third person.
Have and then it was like third person cutscenes, and then suddenly third person completely got wiped. And I think it probably is because they couldn't figure out how to make it do both. Yeah, make it smooth to do both, you know. But then what about if they blow our minds next week, and you know, when it's out and it's like they can do it and it was all a lie. Who knows?
If they do, I'll be buying it. But my thing is, me and you both like customization. That's why we like RPGs. You know, you're really into Mass Effect. We're both into like Dragon Age and stuff. Those kind of games give us the most life, if you like. We love playing those kind of games and talking about the in-depth story and talking about the choices that we both made and what happens if you do this choice and that choice and stuff. Now, a big part of that game is customization, is how your character looks, what your character wears, what, you know, how their hair is, what the size of their iris inside their eye, like all that, like really dramatic customization. Now, Cyberpunk, I believe, from what the rumors have said, has taken this like a whole nother level, and you can even fucking customize your genitals and have like a you know, a dick or a vag, and you can make it look whatever color you want, and you can be a girl with a dick or a boy with a vag. Like, you can go in any direction. My question is, which I'm pretty sure we've said before, why allow that level of customization and then you never get to see your character in a cutscene or in gameplay? Like, you'd have to realistically go find a toilet and go find a mirror, or any room with a mirror to be able to see what you've created. Yeah. Like, I don't understand it. It's like Skyrim in a sense, because Skyrim is the same. If you keep it on first person mode, why are you going to design a lizard with 5 eyes and a tail and this and that and then not look at it? I want to see my creation. Confuses me.
Yeah.
That's why I appreciate things like Spider-Man, when you can put the different suits on. Like, I want to see that suit flying around the city. That's why I've put it on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is weird. I don't really get the whole kind of concept behind it. Obviously, more will be revealed when the game is released. I was hesitant about getting it day one, but I feel like for the sake of my sanity and all these questions that need to be answered, I will be getting it. And obviously, as of now, when this is released, I will be playing it, and I will have formed my opinion, ready for what episode we talk about it. But
in 20 episodes' time, we finally address it.
But yeah, I agree. I feel like if you're gonna go, I think for any game, if you're gonna have the opportunity to do as much customization as you can, then first person, I feel like, is a weird design choice. But obviously, it's a choice for a reason. So I guess it is to make you feel probably more immersed for the like majority of people. I think it makes people feel immersed. Obviously, for you, it doesn't. And that's probably the whole.
Yeah, everyone's different.
But yeah, so it's just bloody weird, isn't it? We've gone so off topic of Spidey.
So off topic. Poor Peter. Poor Peter Parks. He's got no clue.
I know.
Peter Parker.
But it is a good game overall. Spider-Man's a good game. Good game.
Overall, Spider-Man's a good game. Recommend. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Well, that's the thing. So the story in Spider-Man, back to what I was actually saying, the story in Spider-Man is really good because it doesn't follow any known comics that I know, or cartoons or games or whatever, and really adds a lot of meat to the bones. Like, if you like, it really shows you a lot of in-depth conversations that he has and stuff. And most Spider-Man games start off in the same place. They start off just as Uncle Ben dies and just as you get your powers and that kind of stuff. This doesn't. Like, it starts off in Peter's already been Spider-Man for quite a while, kind of thing. Like, he's already got a grasp of his powers, and because you've played that part of Spider-Man's life so many times, you don't need to play it again. Like, I'm gonna guess there's not a lot of people who are picking up Spider-Man on PS4/5 for the first time. This isn't their first Spider-Man game experience. I'm guessing there's probably some people that it is, but realistically a lot of people are buying Spider-Man because they love Spider-Man games and have been exposed to that media before. So you don't need to see him being bitten again and again. Like, that's done with. But the way this does, it really puts like a bigger emphasis on Aunt May, and like you really see him bond with her and stuff. And so do you think you know how the game ends with all the supervillains and the big drama and all that kind of stuff?
No.
Am I to go any
I'm just gonna be so honest. I thought I
No.
remembered it, but like I'm like, oh, it doesn't.
So am I not to ruin it or to ruin it? That is the question. What do you want to do?
I think you should ruin it because I feel like I've finished it and I'm just being very not in the moment with the game, and I think that's on
You're
me.
just not
That's a me
here.
issue. So like,
that sounds like a you problem.
that's a me problem. So like,
You're here physically but not spiritually and emotionally.
yeah. So if I haven't finished it, then it's getting spoiled for me as well as everyone else today.
There you go. Well, this is why it like really fucked me up, because okay, the positive thing first, because you basically have to, while Doc Ock slowly descends into madness and takes over the city and becomes cray cray, you interact with all of Spider-Man's like classic villains like in one whole game. So Doc Ock like frees and helps people like Electro and Vulture and Scorpion and Rhino, and they all come at you. And there's even fights where you have to fight them together. So you're fighting Rhino and then Scorpion gets involved, and I tell you, some of the hardest gameplay is fighting both the bosses at the same time. And me and that dodge button were like best friends. Like, it is so quick paced and like really intense fighting. I've enjoyed it so much, and I love that the story took it that direction, because I remember playing these games when I was a kid and being like, oh, I'd love for this to happen, blah blah blah, but it never would, because the engines could never cope with like that kind of fast action happening. So he was always disappointed, but to be able to live in a time where they can do that kind of stuff was amazing. So to be fighting Electro and then Vulture flies out and attacks you, and you're literally fighting them both and you're dodging things left, right and centre, you do really feel like Spider-Man. And the way they weaved that into the story was just so like seamless. It didn't seem forced. It seemed like a big grand plan that had been like mapped out beforehand. It really was really cool. On the flip side, at the very end, this is like the most, not negative thing at all, really good, but just sad. Like when you're trying to get this cure for the people of the city, and then you find out that Aunt May has contracted the virus, it was like, yeah, I know, see your face. It was like a heartbreaking moment, because sad facing. Because even though you know probably what's going to happen, you try and fight and you're like, but what will the game do? Maybe the game won't do this, maybe it will. And like, there comes a point where you've knocked off all of the bosses except Octavius, and he has the last sample of the antivirus, and Spider-Man goes and kits out and puts a brand new suit on and goes to fight him, and you're like fighting Doc Ock, but he's also been like your mentor for so many years, and like Peter even says numerous times like, I loved you, I worshipped you, and you're betraying everybody, what are you doing? That is like heartbreaking, to get to the point that Ock then smashes off your mask and rips it, and he knows that you're Spider-Man. He's known for quite a while, and then like Peter gets enraged and he's like, so you knew this whole time that it was me, and yet you still tried to kill me, you still tried to hurt my family. So like it brings like a whole like load of emotion with it. And then you've got like an hour to get the anti-serum off of him to go and save May's life, and that's like another moment, because you're trying to kill your like basically best friend and mentor to save your aunt. And then when you get back to the hospital bed and you've got the anti-serum, you're like feeling really sad, because you can only save Aunt May or save the rest of the city.
Oh.
And like he's trying to like make this choice where he's holding the vial over her little needle, and he's going to put it in, and he's shaking and he's screaming, and then Aunt May's awake and she looks at Spider-Man and says, let me see my nephew, take off your mask. So he takes it off, and he's like, you knew it was me? She's like, I've known for a while, and look how proud we are of you, and how proud Uncle Ben is. And that's when I texted you, I was like, I'm really having an emotional time. Like, because like Aunt May's dying, but she knew all along that you're a superhero and she loves you still, and like she brought up Uncle Ben.
But did you save Aunt May? What happened?
You then hold it, and then he's like, I don't know what to do, and then she says, you know what you have to do, and then he puts it down, and then she dies in his arms.
That is emotional. I'd be like, I do. Sacrifice.
Exactly. I'm like, save Aunt
do you know
May,
what I mean?
bye everyone. This ties into the conversation we had last week with The Last of Us with Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
Do you save Ellie or do you save like the? Oh,
These are the kind of
it's all
decisions
seen-
that I think players need to. It would be great if they could make.
100%. And also, this just shows that we didn't just talk about Spider-Man for a random reason. We had a plan, a grand plan. It was to bring this decision back to light. I wanted to save Aunt May so bad because she's like worked her arse off at Feast and like she's trying really hard and she's been through enough shit in her life. Do you know what I mean? Like, let the woman live.
Yeah.
But no, we saved everyone else and it was quite emotional. And like Mary Jane isn't your girlfriend at this time. She's just like a really good friend. And she's like watching you have this breakdown from like across the room. And she's like, oh, Peter. And I was like, go and kiss him or something. What are you doing, you bitch? I was like, go and comfort him.
So now you definitely need to play the next one to see like what's going on. That's for sure. I need to play the first one again or finish it, even though you've now told me, but like, and play the next one. Oh, games are getting too good at keeping us latched on. That is the thing.
We've said it about Last of Us before, that we want like a playable film, and to me Spider-Man was like that. And it was filled with so many Easter eggs and things that relate to like other aspects of Spider-Man's life or like other games or cartoons or films, and like, or even like the PS1 era having similar costumes and stuff. Like, it was done so well, and I just loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I do recall when I was playing it like that it felt very polished. Like, there weren't something that I didn't not like about it, apart from obviously sometimes like capturing things can slightly get tedious, but that's I get it's an action game at the end of the day, but it's an action game with, when I was playing it I remember the story being quite good, but obviously never finished it. But from what you've said, like, it's an action game with a really strong single player experience as well. So yeah, overall just a brilliant game, and I think it's really nice that it is able to kind of hold its own in like the gaming world, because a lot of the time you see these games that are made from sort of comics or whatever, and like they do kind of sometimes fall flat. I mean, Hulk never really made much of it. Iron Man's not done too well.
Tragic. No.
Obviously Batman's good, but I feel like as good as Batman is, Spider-Man still always kind of has the upper hand on it. I don't feel like I feel like people drop everything to play a Spider-Man game. With Batman, it's like, oh yeah, I really enjoy it, but it's not like fucking hell Spider-Man, So
yeah, if there's a Batman game and a Spider-Man game coming out next week, I'm buying the Spider-Man one, and then if I've got time, I'll buy the Batman one. I do like Batman, but it's a bit like, I feel like Batman has a better fighting chance than some other heroes as well, because it's such a childhood figure. Like, when I was a kid, the cartoons that were on were the Spider-Man cartoon, and there was a Batman and Robin cartoon. There wasn't a Hulk cartoon. No one gave a shit about Hulk. Like, there wasn't an Iron Man cartoon, like there was more focus on, like, it was harder you couldn't find an Iron Man lunchbox when I was a child, but you could find 10 Spider-Man ones. Like, I feel like they were more ingrained into our childhood lives, and now we're like older, it's like, oh shit, a Spider-Man game, Spider-Man's always really sick, you want to get that.
It's like a childhood,
like, there's not, and I feel like with Hulk, you can't really name, I mean, I can't personally, and maybe it's just who the heroes that I'm interested in, but you can't really name Hulk's biggest enemy. Who's Hulk's nemesis?
Himself, I guess. Because he just gets pissed off, doesn't he?
His anger issues.
It's me. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't follow... Yeah, to be honest, that's another good point. I don't necessarily follow superhero movies, comics, whatever. Like, I enjoy the Iron Man films, I enjoy the Avengers films, I have enjoyed the Spider-Man films, but like, I don't strictly keep up to date with it. But Spider-Man for me is a game that I will play purely for the game, not because I'm a fan of it. So I guess that just holds true on how good of a sort of concept it is, and how I think a lot of people just generally relate and enjoy Spider-Man because he's a bit sarcastic and he makes you laugh through the adventure as well, which is a really interesting thing.
And he's kind of you at the same time. Like, when you look at people like Batman and like Hulk, they're grown men with jobs and responsibilities, and like, they navigate their life. But Peter was really you. Like, he was a school student. He was like a nerdy teenager, or an awkward teenager who like suddenly had this thing happen to them and like suddenly became special. And I suppose when you're a kid, it's like you can see yourself in Peter a little bit, and you identify with him a bit closer. Like, oh, maybe I'm the one who gets picked on at school, or maybe I'm the one who's like, oh, thinks you know, life's never going to work out for me, and like I'm finding things really difficult. Like you can relate to Peter, like, and his like growing struggles, and like if you're from like a single parent household or whatever, you can like relate to Peter. Whereas the other stories are kind of a bit like, they all have their own greatness, but as a kid you identify with it more, I think, than you would have grown up. And then you kind of grow up with Peter, so like you feel the need to be like, oh, I love the Spider-Man stories. I guess that's just my opinion. I think that he's easier to relate to than a lot of other superheroes, hence his like popularity and success.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. He's a lot more fun.
Yeah, and also the Spider-Man films are really good. The Hulk film was fucking tragic. All of them were. You didn't even see the Hulk until like 97 minutes. I remember counting. I think it was like 96 minutes in.
Really?
And you can become the Hulk. Yeah, it's really bad.
I actually really enjoyed the whole game. I think it was on like maybe it was PS1 or something.
That was a Hulk game?
Yes. And I actually really enjoyed it because there was a bit of a stealth sort of side to it, so you'd have to like break in places, and you could wear like different outfits. Now obviously I've not played this game. We're talking like 20 plus years at this rate, like Jesus. And
oh my god, yes, the PS2.
PS2, yeah. And at the time it was really enjoyable, and you'd get really angry, and then you'd get big, and it was a risk, and all that. I don't know, it was a cool game. Like, I enjoyed it, but yeah, it never quite had the edge that Spider-Man games did.
No, I'm seeing it now. I remember now I'm looking at it. I remember the front cover being, there was the Hulk and there was the Incredible Hulk, and apparently there was a PS3 the Hulk as well.
Yeah, I only ever played one, which I'm assuming was the PS2 game.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's obviously, this is obviously just us talking about experience. Obviously, me just talking about being a Spider-Man fanboy. Like, I'm sure there's people who hate Spidey and love the Hulk and loved every Hulk game, and I think that the next.
Oh yeah, well that's why these
characters.
Bread. Yeah, why these characters are made. They fit a certain criteria for every different kind of person. Like, you're not gonna love all of them equally.
No, exactly.
It's just a shame, I guess, maybe that for the films to be as sort of big as they are in regards to like Avengers, and that's like Iron Man, Hulk, all that lot, there's not that many games dedicated to them like Spider-Man. But maybe that's because Spider-Man doesn't really get much of a look in when it comes to stuff like that, you know. So it's like,
maybe. I think it also ties in though, we said this a few podcasts ago, about in the noughties and the 90s and like the early 2000s, where like if there was a film coming out, there would also be a game coming out on like PlayStation, Game Boy, and Xbox, done like straight away. Or if a game came out, you knew the film was around the corner. Like, there was a culture of like merching the shit out of everything.
Happy Meal toys, games,
like, and I feel like in that era of time, there was more Spider-Man films than any other superhero. Like, Tobey Maguire signed that 3-film deal, and that was it. There was 3 Spider-Man films, and because there was 3 Spider-Man films, there was 3 Spider-Man games, and because there was 3 games, like, there was other toys released. Like, he's easy to merchandise, and I think there was so much going on in that time period. They really like hit the nail on the head, and he's now solidified as like one of the PlayStation superheroes, or gaming superheroes, should we say.
Definitely.
But yeah, they did like this game. I really, really enjoyed this game. The gameplay was fantastic. The story was really, really good, really brilliant, tugged at the heartstrings.
And the environment as well. I mean, you can't fault it. The city looks great. The
city looks fantastic.
Visually,
so good.
Beautiful game. Fluid.
And he can swim, which is like
I was shocked
a thing
at that.
Because in Spider-Man 2, even on the PlayStation 2, I remember that was always a big thing where like you'd fall in the sea, like fall in the river, the Hudson and stuff, and hit, not the Hudson, I don't even know, New York, wherever. You'd fall in that bit,
in New York.
that body of water. Is it the Hudson? It might be the Hudson.
I don't know.
Who knows?
We're not from around that end.
No, we're not from those ends. You fall into the river or the lake or the ocean or the sea or whatever, and he would always he would like teleport back onto the thing and be like, ooh, spiders can't swim, or like, oh,
yeah,
I just took a bath, like some sarcastic line, because there's always that joke that like you could never swim in games until the sequel, but like he was never really one, you could never get him wet. And I suppose in the cartoons and the comics and stuff, he never really went swimming either. He is a spider, but it was I just like the thing that you could fall into the water and not instantly die. You could jump back out, which is quite cool. But yeah, the fighting, actually, just one thing I'm gonna say, the fighting like is really good, like really good. And if you're quick enough, if you can keep up with it, what you're watching on screen can play out so brilliantly and look really stylish and look really slick. and like you definitely feel like you're fighting as an experienced Spider-Man. Like the fact that you like punch, kick, and then slide under their legs and can jump over them, just like it makes you feel like you're doing more than you're doing. But I will say, the combat is hard. It is hard, but it's really cool looking.
Oh yeah, definitely. Do you feel like the I know your play is a PS4 game, but it's on the PS5. Do you feel like there's been quite a difference in comparison from playing the original on the PS4 to now carrying it on the PS5? Has there been much you've noticed that's been different, or do you feel like it's just a bit more smoother, or maybe nothing at all? It's just same as.
I will say it is kind of same as, except the loading times are a lot better.
Okay.
I found on the PS4 that Spider-Man played incredibly smoothly, but the second you died or had to come across a loading screen, you'd be waiting for quite a while, like a good 30 seconds, which obviously is not a long time, but it is for like when you're in like I said, the combat is very fast paced. Mm-hmm. So like you're bashing the buttons incredibly quickly and doing all kinds of different things. So when you feel that you've died and have to restart and it takes a long time, it pulls you out of that quickness. You start feeling like, oh, fuck this. I've died 3 times and I've had to wait so long in between each one, and you kind of fall off of it. But when playing on the PS5, the turnaround was a lot quicker. It was like a few seconds. So that made me feel like I could jump. I could die and be like, it's okay, I'm going to jump back into it in like a few seconds time, I'm ready. And like it kind of helped the pace of the game. But I'd say the loading times was the biggest thing that I noticed. And I suppose it did look extra shiny, but it's hard to tell because it was such a well-made game anyway. Yeah. It's hard to tell if it's
That's
upgraded.
What I've noticed. I think some games look like really good, but then I honestly feel like, especially at this sort of time, it's so early in the life cycle. Like it's not even been out really a month, and it's like most stuff isn't going to look that drastically great because it's got to be cross-platform. So we're not going to see the true benefit till 2-3 years. Tell you what game, totally off topic, but Kena, that's coming out, or Kenna, I think it's pronounced Kenna. Pretty sure it's pronounced Kenna.
Did we talk about it?
No, we haven't talked about it yet, but it looks bloody brilliant. It's out in March, I believe, but it's almost like a Disney film, and it just looks adorable. Like I cannot wait for it. You'll have to look that up at some point.
It sounds familiar. I feel like we spoke about it when we did the PS5 episode, but I can't quite picture what you're talking about.
It's
what's it about?
It's not out till next year, so I don't think it was. Or maybe we did actually. Yeah, maybe we did. I don't know. Either way, it's a game that I think is going to look absolutely insane, and I think on the PlayStation 5 it's going to really show it off.
That and Stray. Very excited for Stray.
Yeah, Stray's going to be exciting. So many good games.
Very hyped. So many good games. And one last thing that I've just remembered is when I got to the end of Spider-Man, after the post-credit scene does set up Miles Morales, which I didn't really realize because obviously in the ending scene, it's heavily implied that Miles has been bitten, and then you do see a scene where the spider crawls onto him and he goes ow and like slaps it away, and he sees a dead spider and he's like, oh okay, something's gonna happen. Is he gonna become like infected as well and become like a Spider-Man? And then the very end scene, Peter seems to be helping him move in somewhere or move into a new house or a new flat or whatever. And then he starts talking about, he's like, Peter, I'm having some changes happen in my body. Like, you know, I think something's happening to me. And then Peter thinks he's talking about like going through puberty. And he's like, well, you're at a certain age now, like where your body goes through changes and like you'll notice this. And then he's like, no, it's better if I show you. And he leaps onto the ceiling and can hold himself there. And then I'm not sure if he currently knows about Peter being Spider-Man, but then Peter jumps up and sticks to the ceiling as well. And like it does nicely set up the fact that there will be a Miles Morales game, which was quite cool. I did like that little ending.
It's nice when they do stuff like that and sort of roll it into it, and then you know you got something to look forward to.
Exactly. Yes. But I love this game. Love Spider-Man, and I can't wait to play Miles Morales and experience a proper PS5 Spider-Man. Be very interested to see. But that does look like we've come to the end of our time, if not a little bit over. So next week we hopefully will be talking about Spider-Man or Last of Us or something, or who knows, we're probably talking about Barbie's Dreamhouse. We'll see. Whatever comes up first.
What a show.
We need to talk about very, very quickly. I can't even remember what it's called now. But do you remember I sent you that random game that was on the PS5 PlayStation Store, something called like Tests in Someone's Horse Riding, and they had like a whole backlog of games. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like Sony just says like yes to anyone. I feel like we could put a game on the PlayStation Store.
Why don't we play it?
Why don't we? We should review that game next.
Game of the year.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Game of the Year. Oh, the Gaming Awards is next week as well. Well, next week of this currently recorded. It's probably already out.
Yeah.
I'm praying for Final Fantasy. What about you?
Who knows, man? I don't even know. Anyone. They're all good.
Okay, great. Glad to see you. Thanks for your input. Anyway, right. So if you are interested in following us on social media, we do have Twitter and we do have Instagram. So our Twitter is at TG Breakdown. And our Instagram is at TG Breakdown Podcast. So if you want to come and tell us we're talking shit, then please go there and do so. And yeah, hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we shall see you in the next one.